Okay, so in this video I'm going to be going through a translation and discussion of the passage that we have read that begins Antequam illa raeda. There are lots of good stuff in here, a lot of paraphrastics, a lot of participles, and the like. So let's go ahead and get started. As per usual, I will be saying 5 words at various points throughout the whole of the video, that by putting it into Canvas you'll then earn yourself a free and easy 100. So let's go ahead and begin. Antequam illa raeda, before that carriage of the Cornelians, and then what I have to do is that I have to go and find the verb for which that is going to be obviously the subject, and so I need to go all the way to, and I skip cui multam pecuniam Cornelii dedere, because that is its own clause, so I'll underline it in a different color, and continue on until I finally find my verb, which is tracta est. So before that carriage of the Cornelians has been dragged, was dragged. When you have the perfect passive participle from traho, trahere, traxi, tractus, plus a present of the verb to be, sum es est, that makes for a perfect passive verb. Has been dragged, was dragged, out of this ditch by certain horses. Remember that dom on the end of qui qua quod is going to mean a certain, or in this case plural, certain horses, of the innkeeper. Now, you then have ipsius modifying it of the innkeeper himself. Dantis now is going to be a genitive present active participle, you can tell because of the form, that is modifying calponus, telling us which innkeeper, the innkeeper giving help. And it is then going to have, immediately thereafter, the relative clause starting with cui. Cui is dative, remember nominative, qui, qui, quod, genitive, cuius, 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 dative, qui, qui, qui. And so you will not say who or whom, but to whom. So it is taking as its antecedent the calponus. And so it says, the one giving help, the innkeeper, to whom the Cornelians, nominative plural, did give, have given a lot of money. So before that carriage has been dragged out, and I need to go ahead and underline all the way to there, for the purpose of, because ad, whenever it is hanging around either a gerund or a gerundive, is going to then have a phrase that indicates for the purpose of. For the purpose of the journey, accusative singular neuter, taking or being the object of the ad, and then that is modifying iter, about to be continued to Rome. So for the purpose of a journey about to be continued to Rome. However, it could also be that this would be, instead of a gerundive, modifying iter, it could be that it would say, for the purpose of the act of continuing the gerund, and then continuing whom or what? The journey. And thus it could also then be the accusative object of the gerund. So it is your choice, both are absolutely correct. It is either for the purpose of the journey, about to be continued, or for the purpose of continuing the journey. So before that carriage of the Cornelians has been dragged, was dragged out of this ditch by certain horses of the innkeeper himself, the one giving money, the one to whom the Cornelians did give, or not giving money, giving help, the one to whom the Cornelians gave a lot of money, before it can be dragged out for the purpose of continuing the journey to Rome. Before that, then epistola, a letter, and then I gotta go find my verb, missa erat. Here, compare it to tracta est, in that it has an imperfect of the verb to be paired with the perfect passive participle from mid mittere. So this is has been drug out, or has been dragged. This is gonna be had, pluperfectly been sent. So before the carriage, that carriage has been dragged out, a letter had been sent to Titus, the one awaiting, present active participle, does the form, at the Porta Capena. And so therefore, that is then your first sentence. We continue on. In his own, her own, or its own letter. Because it is modifying letter, it is feminine, but because it's referring to Cornelius, we know that it is then translated his own letter. Cornelius wrote, did write, has written, perfect tense with a perfect stem, and a perfect ending. And that's your first word to put in for the Easy Free 100. It's scripsit. S-C-R-I-P-S-I-T. Scripsit. That's your first word. Now, he wrote, quote, Roma, Rome, go find my verb, if I see a longi future ubi, will be reached a nobis, by us. Whenever you have a or ab with an ablative word working with a passive verb, it is your ablative of personal agent. Rome will be reached by us in 3 days. It is ablative. And discesuris is a future active participle telling us what kind of us. By us, the ones about to leave the motel tomorrow. And so he's writing this at night and indicating that the next morning he'll be setting out. So he wrote, Rome will be reached in 3 days by us about to depart the motel tomorrow. Electica, a litter, and then I go and find my verb, and there it is. Now, it is a future passive periphrastic, but the action could be present if it were to have an est. It could be imperfect if it were to have it rot, but since it has an erit, this needs to show obligation in the future. A litter will have to be hired, future passive periphrastic, dative of agent, by you, and then I put parentheses there, gratia with gerund or gerundive is going to obviously have to express a purpose as well. For the sake of not leading, because that is a gerundive. So it's for the sake of, and this requires a genitive object, the family about to be led home. Now, let's explore all the other ways that this could have been expressed. I could have expressed it with the same gratia, or, actually, let's use a more vibrant color that we have there. There it is. I could have still used gratia, as it were, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. How about in the middle there? And instead of ducendi familiae, it could be familiam, and then domum, of course, I'm just going to leave that out, and then it would be ducendi. And so here it would say gratia or causa, frankly, because they both require genitive objects, for the sake of the act of leading the family, and then domum, home. If I had used an odd, it would be odd, and thus, if I wanted it to be for the purpose of the family, it would be odd, familiam, and then I would be modifying familiam with the gerund, or I should say gerundive, ducendam, and so now it says, for the purpose of the family, about to be led home, or I could have said odd, and now it would have been familiam, and then ducendum. And now with that ending, it is the gerund object of odd, and takes familiam as the direct object of the gerund. And here it says at the very bottom, for the purpose of leading the family home. Here it says for the purpose of the family about to be led home, and that's why it's am modifying it. And here it says for the sake of either gratia or causa, leading the family home. And in the black it says, obviously, for the sake of the family about to be led home. And so those are all the different ways that would be the equivalency. Nevertheless, we continue on. So it says, Principe nostro senatores revocante, with our emperor recalling the senators. This is an ablative absolute. This is your ablative noun. This is your ablative present active participle. And remember, it is replacing a subordinate clause. So you could say, because the emperor recalls the senators. Since the emperor is recalling the senators. Because present act, or present participle, indicates that the action is at the same time as your main verb, which in this instance is going to be governed by that sunt. So literally, with our emperor recalling the senators, all the men of the Senate, genitive, singular, fourth declension, idiot proof, are about to come together, about to convene. And it is a future active participle paired with a form of the verb to be, making a future active periphrastic that, of course, is idiot proof. And so, your second word that you need to put in is that word that we had in the line above, gratia. Your second word is gratia. G-R-A-T-I-A. Gratia. So, we keep it up to try and keep this video a little bit short. Conducito. That is the form of a future imperative. If it were plural, if we were talking more than one, it would be conducitote. And so, conducito, singular, you, one person, may you hire, and this would be may y'all hire. So, he's talking directly to his brother, and so it's going to be, may you hire good slaves, the object of the imperative. He then goes on to say, boni servi, good slaves, present passive, dico dicere, are said to have been found. A perfect passive infinitive, to have been found in the Suburra. So he's telling them the place where you can go to find the really good slaves to be able the ones that are going to be able to carry the litter. Your third word is that future imperative, conducito. C-O-N-D-U-C-I-T-O, conducito. That is your third word. So, he again says, good slaves are said to have been found in the Suburra. Now, we have yet another ablative absolute. Nostro vehiculo, ablative, octo, ablative, and that is it. So with no vehicle, or no, with our vehicle, not no, nostro is our. So with our vehicle having been driven well by Cirrus, a journey, nominative, neuter singular, must be made dative of agent by us very quickly. And so if we were to turn the ablative absolute into a subordinate clause, it would say something along the lines of, when our vehicle was driven well, has been driven well. Because the perfect participle needs to occur before your main action. Your main action is in the present, so therefore make the action occur before the present. That's why I'm saying was driven, has been driven by Cirrus well. At any rate, so we continue on. Excuse me. In eadem epistola, in the same letter, and this should have a macron, I unfortunately left it off by accident, the orders of Cornelius, know your endings, those orders, data sunt, were given, have been given. Again, when you pair a present of the verb to be with a perfect passive participle, it makes a perfect passive verb. Were given to dative Titus, domus, poranda, die causa. One of only two fourth declension words that are feminine, hence why porandi, the gerundive, is modifying it. Genitive singular, and you know it's a gerundive because it is not one of those gerundive or gerund forms. For the sake of the house about to be prepared. And so he's giving them instructions of not only do you need to come pick us up, you're also going to make sure to get our house ready because within a few days of arriving, we're going to have this big dinner that is in the next chapter of 33. A Cornelia ipso scribebatur. It was written by Cornelius himself, saying, another ablative absolute, with us, invitaturis, about to invite several certain senators to dinner. And so it would be something along the lines, because we will invite, if it were a subordinate clause, but it is not, is the ablative absolute. So with us, about to invite several certain senators to dinner, the dining room will have to have been prepared by the slaves. It is a future perfect obligation. So will have makes it future perfect, and then you use the obligation have to be prepared. So will have to have been prepared by the slaves before we will arrive. If I see I long e, future it will be. Your fourth word that you can put in for that Easy Free 100 is quosdam. Q-U-O-S-D-A-M. It is indeed certain when you put a D-A-M on qui qua quo. So again, your fourth word is quosdam. Q-U-O-S-D-A-M. Let's finish it up. Servo cui credis pecuniam da. Da is nothing more than the infinitive dare with the R-E chopped off, meaning, of course, give. So it's a command. Give money to a slave whom you trust. Datives can be translated to, whom, for whom, and if it were the dative of agent with a future passive paraphrastic, it'd be even by whom. But when it is the object of a special verb, there's no need for a special translation. It is merely the object, so whom you trust. Cui, object of special verb that requires a dative. Give some money to a slave whom you trust, money qua, with which food will be, because that is the future of the verb to be, able, present passive infinitive, to be bought. Will be able to be bought. So it is the money with which food will be able to be bought. This, of course, is another relative clause. Tum. Then, by. It is in the ablative. It is not a gerundive because it's not modifying anything. When it ends with a long O, it would have to be modifying something dative singular, I see nothing there, or ablative singular, I see nothing there. So it is the gerund, make it ablative, by the act of buying. So then, by buying a lot of food beforehand, all things, neuter, plural, nominative, already will be prepared. Future. Soon we will see you at the Porta Capena. Remember, he's talking to his brother. Vale. Be strong, or simply buy. And so in that way, obviously, we have now the whole of it. Your last word, the fifth and final one, is that gerund that is there. Emendo. E-M-E-N-D-O. Emendo. And so therefore, hopefully this helps you on the multiple choice, and hopefully you take advantage and earn yourself an easy and free 100. Thanks.